Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another scene set in the Chronicles of Darkness Vampire Requiem, a Requiem for London. Tonight, we set the scene just outside Buckingham Palace. Just in front of the Victoria Memorial. Surrounded by beautiful gardens and an enormous crowd that stretches all the way down the Mall. The long road that leads from central London up to Buckingham Palace. You could mistake this event for a midnight royal wedding, such is the scale and size of the crowd gathered. It is a wondrous affair. And all around...
They just came in to make sure the fire is still going.
There are showmen and performers.
It's fine as it is.
What? Even the odd acrobat.
I know. So sorry, do continue.
Oh no, please finish.
I had to check on something, damn it.
One lethal for every interruption. Just saying. But no. It is a wondrous affair. It is enormous crowds gathered down the mall and across the parks. As a result, there is a fairly heavy police presence. Mass gatherings like this do not go unnoticed by law enforcement, but it's hardly a riot. There is very little violence, and while there will inevitably be troublemakers in a crowd of this size, there has been no disturbance to your performers or anything such as that. And you stand taking in the revelry of the audience before Victoria Memorial. You've probably already engaged in a few tricks of the trade to whet their hunger.
So, Joshua's standing in front of a truck, basically. The truck has its back two doors open, and he's smoking a cigarette quickly as he's getting mic'd up. Basically, what they've done is they have a large amount of sound equipment that's just been put in the back of 2 or 3 trucks, and it's just been slammed out onto the pavement and is being powered by car batteries. It looks really haphazard and it looks really improvised. But the audio is booming and relatively good. I have a quick and important question. Would Jenna hate me forever if she was my lovely assistant for the evening?
She is she'll say yeah. Actually, yeah, she's pretty much down for anything. She doesn't really care. Yeah, she's quite happy to be your lovely assistant.
Yay. But so yeah, he finishes his cigarette and he says, right, okay, this is actually bigger than I was thinking it was going to be. So there's that. That's something. He knocks another cigarette out of the box before he sparks it up. What time do we have? Does anyone know what time it is? He's not wearing a watch.
Why does Joshua sound Cockney? Isn't he American?
No, Josh was English.
What?
Yeah.
I thought he was American. I need to read your backstory.
Oh shit, no, he is American. Cancel the Cockney. All right, what time is it? Somebody, I don't know my watch, so anybody time?
Just coming up 5 to 10.
All right, cool. Shit, fuck, there are a lot of people out there. Well, there you go. If it helps. Oh, sorry, continue.
I think it's what people call doing a job too well.
I mean, well, if it all goes tits up, we'll just storm Buckingham Palace. I guess that's how that's going to work.
I mean, that's one way to go out, I guess.
I mean, I hear those beaver hats are fierce deadly with their rifles, so, you know, it's fine. It's all fine, maybe.
They're made out of beavers?
I think they're made out of beavers. Are they made out of beavers? Oh, no, shit, they're made out of bears, aren't they? Yeah. Like they weren't endangered or anything.
Actually, what are they made out of?
I think they're bearskin. I think you are right.
Yeah, no, yeah. I thought it was going to be one of those QI moments where they're called bearskins, but they actually aren't made out of bearskin.
Well, it's because like bears are like terribly endangered now, so I you know, it's one of those things that I could see them actually having to go discount beaver, you know.
Fake fur, fake bear fur.
By the way, what kind of weather is it tonight?
Cloudy, overcast. Pretty typical British weather, but you know, nothing that. It's fortunate for you. It hasn't down. You know, if it were raining, it would have probably been significantly reduced crowd size.
Yeah, he smiles and he says, "All right, so let's." He looks out over the crowd again, stubs his cigarette out. Well, on the bright side, if they hate us, they're just going to tear us apart. So, you know, it's fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong.
We'll be fine. I mean, it's my first time ever doing this, but we'll be fine. You got this.
Sometime I'll tell you about what happened in Barcelona. Nobody was ever unaffected by what happened in Barcelona. Rip Barcelona. How was I to know they were planning to run with that bull the next day?
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure that's a national event.
Shh. All right, let's do this. He turns and he brushes down his coat. He fixes his hair, tosses the ponytail over the shoulder. And basically what he does is that where the van is parked, he hops up onto the fountain's kind of, you know, its circular periphery that surrounds the fountain itself. He hops up onto that and he walks out in front of the crowd. And he just says, "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice just booming around the audience as he takes a rather dramatic bow and he says, "Oftentimes we're told in our lives that the impossible is impossible. The improbable is improbable, and everything else that lies beyond that is just a dream." Well, you see, I personally don't believe that. I believe that we have the ability, should we wish it, to reach out with both hands, to grasp it, to hold it close, and to do in ourselves the impossible. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share a dream with all of you. But before we begin, Bishop, can I do an intelligence politics roll? Basically, in order to find, because Friendo might not have been interested, the venture might not have been interested in sponsorship because she didn't care. There might be other businesses that are held by various kindred who would very much like a shout out to this kind of crowd of people as a thanks. Can I make an intelligence politics to identify one by name?
Yes, I'm gonna say minus 2 dice. Kindred don't usually, unless they're making a point. A lot of Kindred businesses are kind of veiled between a layer of proxies. A lot of Kindred don't publicly announce their affiliation to certain organizations in order to protect their influence. But there are a few out there that are known or rumored to be owned or heavily invested into via Kindred.
I spent a willpower and have a success.
Alrighty. Let me find it for you. Actually, one success. You don't know. You don't necessarily know any Kindred inside. Any Kindred businesses public cloned inside London that have an interest in this event, but or like their businesses. They may have reached out to you, but you're not entirely sure if they're owned by Kindred or not. However, the where you brought the fashion house, as it were, that you brought that you bought your lovely is it a suit?
It's very much kind of like as he's pictured there, so almost like a military uniform with a lot of like rips and tears and kind of, you know, odd symbols on it, you know, very kind of nouveau punk.
Yeah, there is yeah, you no, you bought it from a fashion house that runs out of New York, which is hard Carthian territory, but has a sprinkling of every covenant, including the sanctified. And one of the more prominent David there, Ilya Whitehall, actually runs that fashion house.
What's the name of the fashion house?
The fashion house is just called Whitehall.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the fine people at the Fashion House of Whitehall for our stunning accoutrements this evening. Needless to say, if it is that you want to change the world, change it in Whitehall. And he'll snap his fingers.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
See, Isabella's what's her name? Jenna's already proving that she's useful. Head pats.
You're one of the first influencers. How does it feel?
Pretty interesting. I made YouTube.
I made YouTube.
Allow me to also announce, ladies and gentlemen, that tonight, as you're sharing this dream with me, my performing troupe, the Cirque du Macabre, is about to launch our new show, The Requiem for a Dream. So, don't forget to book tickets through all of your local retailers and Ticketmaster. Do you remember when Ticketmaster was a thing, Bishop? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Oh yeah. God, that was.
Well, because this game is set in like what, 1990 something, or like 2000 like 2001, 2002,
2010.
Oh wow, okay, it's actually not that far back, but it's still pretty far back.
Ticketmaster's still active, isn't it? Merged with Live Nation.
So he says, now, ladies and gentlemen, Madame de Monsieur, mein Damen und mein Herren.
There is enormous raucous cheers
Sorry.
from the crowd going,
Now then, tonight, I thank Her Majesty and Her Majesty's government for letting us use this gracious space. So, why don't you join me in a belting verse of it? He just starts singing God Save Our Gracious Queen in a kind of a punk ballad of it. I feel like I should roll performance.
roll presence performance, please.
Wouldn't it be hilarious? I almost want to fail this because, like, then it sound like really punk. Hang on. So it's.
I mean, you're almost
7.
doing it satirically, so it's acceptable enough.
It's 7 plus 10. It's 7 plus 3 is 10. Plus 3 is 13. Sorry, so so it's 7 plus 3 is 10. Plus 3 is 13. Am I missing anything? Because I'm trying. How did I get to 18 the last time? It had an extra plus 2 from. Oh, it had 2 and 5. It had from willpower, but I'm not going to spend a willpower on this.
You don't want to spend a willpower on this?
No, I'm not going to spend a willpower on this one.
Okay, fair enough.
It comes off actually sounding patriotic.
You hit the perfect balance between satirical and patriotic, so you are appealing to every audience you possibly can while not offending any of them, while causing those who want to offend people to think that you are. Such is the perfection of your performance that it is peak accessibility, one might suggest. Everybody starts singing along. The audience sounds almost comically distorted, but it is all part of the charm of the act. And you, more importantly, sound flawless.
Hey. But when he's done with that, he gives a salute towards Buckingham Palace before he'll say, "Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you see the first step in my new endeavor. Just as Christ performed miracles, tonight I'll turn water into wine. In approximately 4 months' time," he holds up his hand, "I will be in, what's the name of the big park? Is it St. James's Park in London?
Yeah, it's
Or Hyde Park?
It's St. James's Park.
Yes.
St. James's Park is just is on the south side, or the east side rather, and Green Park is on the west side.
Okay. He'll say, "In 4 months' time, ladies and gentlemen, I will be repeating a second miracle. I'm not saying I'm the second coming or anything, but who knows? And in that place, on that day, in 4 months' time, you know what, Bishop, because this is really funny, I will be feeding the masses with just 1 serving of fried fish and 1 bag of chips." He's going to do the loaves and the fishes with fried fish and chips. Come on, that's amazing. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for, the moment we've all been waiting for. He reaches up and he takes off a crucifix that he's wearing around his neck, because Joshua does do a lot of religious paraphernalia in his thing, like, he has a lot of Gothic crosses and things like that. And he says, well, he walks into the fountain and you kind of see his boot. He stands in there in his boots. Basically, Bishop, the gold is in a small little glass container that is located at the center of the center of the cross. And what he does is he wraps the chain from the cross around his hand. He goes, "In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit, and in the name of all of you, abracadabra." He brings his hand up and he smashes the smashes the glass container into the water, and that will start the transformation. Do you want me to roll showmanship for that, or?
Yes. Roll me your presence. Plus your expression.
This time I am going to spend a willpower. I actually need to buy, what's the name? Is it Majesty?
Yes, Majesty.
I need to buy that for Joshua, really, don't I?
Yes. It should be noted. Your lovely assistant is using it.
Oh, do I get bonus dice for lovely assistant?
I'll have her roll on your behalf.
Okay.
She gets a fair number of bonus dice that she currently using Majesty. But you've been teaching her a bit of expression, so she'll have not a tremendously high expression pool, but she will have one. Does she get fashion? Did you get her fashion too? Actually, yeah, did you get her fashion too?
She can have all the fashion. Head pats of fashion.
Okay. Well, her roll was abysmal, despite her having actually a pretty high dice pool. She does get a success, so you gain you will gain a dice from her success and 2 extra dice, as that is her Majesty rating.
Ooh, all right. So I'm spending a willpower on this one, so that's 3 willpower spent, and my dice pool is that. There you go. 7 successes.
Yes. Exceptional success. But can the crowd be any more hype? It has been. This is something of an emotional roller coaster for people. There's not really much more to say. You've been such a brilliant act that it is perfectly reflected in the crowd. There is just when you want the crowd to roar of excitement, they roar of excitement. When you perform your magic, they stand there in rapt fascination, and then when the magic finally happens, they roar with excitement. You can see tons of flashes going off from the crowd, all from people's phones, from cameras. You can see news crews.
So what Joshua does is he holds out his hand for his lovely assistant to throw him. Basically, he's gonna have a glass, kind of like a goblet, so a very fancy glass cup or glass receptacle.
Mm-hmm.
And what he does is when he's tossed it, he reaches down into the water. Like, I assume the transformation is relatively instantaneous.
Yes. Fealty sorcery is often quite apparent. It's often associated with god rays, will-o-wisps, bright lights, and changes in the environment. When sorcery happens, there's a sort of measured change in the environment that occurs. In the case of Theban sorcery, it reflects many things that people would believe to be religious, such as, again, god rays, light coming off religious adornments, or them just sort of shivering in the presence of sorcery, a sense of rapture and fulfillment in those present, or a sense of cold and judgment, which is extremely common when it comes to Theban sorcery. Much more common than the rapture, actually, is the sense of cold judgment. Perhaps less well suited to your act, but what's important is the magic.
So he kneels down, or he doesn't kneel. He moves his body down, and he picks up a measure of in his hand. So it's very obvious that You know what? Joshua's had fine wine. I'm going to change this into like really fancy wine.
You're gonna
like a chateau.
Into the finest wine you
like
are able to taste.
Yeah, like a Chateau Blanc 1945 or something ridiculously weird because he can. And basically, I'm going to spend the blood point so I can so I can eat and drink. And he raised it to his lips and he knocks it back in one swoop before he just says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Madame de Monsieur, I did this for you. Drink up." He just opens his arms.
Yeah. When you cast the magic, light swirls around the fountain. Sort of like a wave of light pulsates through the water up into the mouth of the fountain itself. And as this pulse of light travels through it, you can it is the clear water is replaced with fine red wine. Actually, and make me a manipulation plus expression in this.
Oh God, no! My dice pool. Joshua can't manipulate people for shit.
Because while this is set up as a stage show, technically displaying such magic could be a risk to the masquerade. So, roll manipulation to convince people that it's nothing more than stage magic. There's a lot of people here. I would give you a bonus, but this is actually the one situation where having such a large amount of people is a negative. There's more people to manipulate, more people to.
All right, so he opens his hands and he says, "Power of God, power of me. Who's to know?" But all right, so he still has. So that is still 5 dice. He still has 5 dice. So plus his what bonuses do I get to add to this? Like, because I have a lot of social bonuses at the moment, so I need to know what's actually applicable.
Your equipment applies. So your fashion applies.
Does my celebrity apply?
Your fame definitely applies to this situation. Absolutely.
All right. So that would be 5. That would be plus 6. So that'd be 11.
And you also get plus 2 dice because your lovely assistant is just so lovely and so compelling. And
all right, in that case,
just adores her, like, arguably more than you.
Oh, thank God. So he does get an exceptional success.
Okay, yeah, there's no risk to the masquerade here. Everybody believes you. Maybe, like, one person in the crowd, but, I mean, it doesn't really matter if one person believes. That person is going to be a conspiracy theorist. What's important is that the herd doesn't believe. So yeah, it's this entire performance has been spectacular from start to finish, and while people will be asking for years how you managed to do this, everybody of course is convinced that it is stage magic and that it is part of the show as opposed to something that they might actually need to look into.
So Joshua climbs out the fountain. He says, "It'll remain like this for about an hour, so I'd drink up if I were you all."
Okay.
And at this point, they're going to come forward with the cups, biodegradable styrofoam cups, because Joshua cares about the environment.
I was going to say, you're kind of there is sort of there is a bunch of those metal barriers set up to stop the crowd from getting too close. There's the police have shown up to this. You didn't actually need to hire your own security due to the very public nature of the event and its proximity to Buckingham Palace.
You know something? He's gonna turn to. Her name is Jenna, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he's gonna say, "Do you want to do something really fun?" He covers his mic when he says this. He grabs her by the hand, and I'll use potence if necessary to drag her with me. Bishop, we're going to go do some crowd surfing.
Oh, okay. Interesting. You literally, oh my god, you T-pose into the crowd. Funnily enough, when you approach, obviously people all over you, just by the nature of your performance. But you can, I mean, you're feeling Her Majesty right now. You can actually attempt to resist it if you want. You can make a check to ignore Her Majesty if you want.
Nah.
Okay.
She's actually really proud of her.
But the crowd responds maybe a little bit too strongly to her. And she approaches. She almost flinches just because the amount of people clamoring over her is something she's clearly not used to, and is something that, to an extent, actually seems to frighten her. Although she keeps that from the crowd, and even if they did notice, they wouldn't care. Such is the power of majesty. But when you kind of sink into the crowd and they start surfing you around, she will more hesitantly attempt to crowd surf in your general direction. And it is grand. It is a perfect evening. There are so many vessels here. Actually, as you go into the crowd, you do notice there are some kindred around. You do see some predatory auras in the crowd. It's almost impossible to spot them. It's only when you're actually crowd surfing and you're actually in the crowd proper that you actually notice a few near you. You think there's a lot more.
Do I notice anyone? I was going to say, do I notice anyone in particular who he has met or he knows? Anyone who would make him raise an eyebrow that, oh, you're here?
You do actually notice some of the Carthians are here, funnily enough.
I mean, it makes sense because they're like big into the punk scene.
Yeah, you got Sebastian. You got second as I find his face. Where is his face? There we go. You got Huo. Pretty much the most of the kindred that you see. You see a lot more unseen faces. Sorry, a lot more less important faces that you either haven't met or you know in passing. You see, and you see this familiar face. One second. There we go. And she is with her sire.
Who is that? I know I've met that face, but I can't remember that face.
She's one of the revenants. Or one of the former revenants. Yes,
and who was her sire?
That is her sire.
Oh, yeah. Her sire's a crusader, like me.
Yes.
Actually, Joshua's going to basically get down from where he is. He's going to kind of make it so that people know that he wants to get down because he actually needs to have a word with her, and now seems as good a time as any.
Well, they're currently in the middle of a crowd.
Yes, but it's not that difficult to get them back to the security barrier. But he as I said, he muscles his way down. He doesn't hurt anyone, but he makes it very clear he wants to stand up or get down from surfing. He will also retrieve Jenna.
Jenna
Like,
actually kind of got down a little bit before you, and seems to have a much easier time with the crowd. Um,
mhm. But
uh, it, and yeah, when you want to get down, I mean, she is very useful at convincing the crowd to put you down.
right,
But you
but
want to head behind the security?
yeah. So he'd like to basically walk up to the his fellow crusader and basically say, "You and I should have a brief talk. If you want to just come behind the security barrier, we can speak in private."
People are like, "Oh my god, you know him?" And she 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 says to you, trying to whisper, having to speak quite loudly, just because the crowd size is so enormous, and the volume is ridiculous. Uh, she says, "Yeah, we'll head to the front."
Hey. All right. So basically, Joshua's going to have it so the security barrier is opened, and basically the crowd can go up to the fountain and withdraw, cupfuls of wine from the fountain to prove that it is real. It's actually quite funny because, of course, at the stroke of midnight, when he says this will all end, I assume he can. You said he can just turn it back, which means any wine that is now water, or water that was wine that it was water, will become water again.
Once it's been imbibed and becomes part of somebody's body, it will not turn back.
But if it's in like a cup or a receptacle, it will.
If it's in a cup or receptacle, yes. But if it's in somebody's body, it effectively counts as part of them. So it's not the wine anymore. It's obviously it's been broken down and all these things that happen. So if it's been imbibed, people won't suddenly feel like less drunk if they've drank a whole lot of wine. But if it's just in a cup, yes, it will turn back to water.
Neat. But yeah, so he goes back and he sits in the back of his van again. He knocks out another cigarette. Does Jenna smoke? If she does, he'll offer her a cigarette.
I don't actually think she does. No, she doesn't smoke.
To be fair, it doesn't actually do anything negative to Joshua. He just does it out of habit. But yeah, he'll wait for his Crusader friendo to get back.
Yeah, the when people start taking water out of fountain with the cups, they're sort of very narrowly let in. It's the barriers open up somewhat, but there's a firm police line. They very much work to ensure that not too many people get in at once. Sure, there's not a stampede.
There's not a crush, basically.
Yeah, they don't want to crush. There's a lot of people here. This could very easily become a crush. If someone incited panic, this could become a nightmare.
Where's Farthingdale when I need him?
Farthingdale teaching people the ways of God by starting a stampede in the middle of Victoria Memorial. But no, you lead them back to the truck that you were getting set up in. Sort of like a tour bus, really.
Mm-hmm. He takes off his gloves because he's wearing white gloves, and they have like weird transmutation circles and shit on the back. They aren't necessary; they're just part of the costume. And he says, "So, I hope that you're doing well, at least."
Yes, this has served as a wonderful opportunity to teach my child a few things.
Basically, what he's going to do in a not condescending way, he's going to send the child off to play with each other so that the two grown-ups can have a talk.
You should have a word of Tara, yes. Well, actually, because Jenna and Tara know each other personally, have known each other for longer than they've known their sires. They're actually quite eager to do this. Tara and Jenna look at each other like old friends, and they are. And yeah, they don't. To be honest, they sort of go off to talk amongst each other before you even have to tell them to. They sort of seem to have their own business they want to discuss with each other.
Josh, when he'll offer his fellow, because she's a Deva as well, isn't she? He'll offer her a cigarette. Doesn't know if she smokes or not.
She waves it off politely.
There's a rather substantial issue that affects you and I very, very badly, I'm afraid to say.
Such bad news during such a lovely show. What is it?
You recall we rescued the group of Ravadans that both of our childhood came from?
Yes.
Apparently there's a lot more.
That is the rumor that has been making the rounds here.
It's not a rumor. Oh.
No, I have every reason to believe it is anything but a rumor. But
Has
a matter of sparse.
Has your childer confided in you the truth yet?
She raises an eyebrow.
At least mine was in contact with this group of unfortunates under somebody there calling, what was her name, Bishop? The Rat Queen or the Queen of Jade or something like that? I can't remember the full title.
Jade Lady.
There's
a lot of you were told a few of her epithets by actually that's an epithet, yeah. A few titles. Queen of the Underground, Jade Lady. Funnily enough, nothing to do with rats.
Oh, sorry. I think I associated Queen of the Underground with rats. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he says, have they confided in you? Basically, there is an individual who I believe is gathering the Revenants or taking care of them, for lack of a better word. This has become complicated. So far, the prince hasn't ordered me to, or any of the archons, to move on this matter, which means that we have not. But it's only a matter of time until this issue becomes public and becomes very complicated. I assume you understand what I mean.
I currently hold no position under the prince's court, so unless there is a public call to arms issued from the Prince of Sheriff, I likely will not be too heavily involved, unless it specifically pertains to the security of the Sanctified.
Open your eyes. If your child knew about this and did not bring it forward, you know what will happen.
I suppose that depends on whether such information were to ever come to light.
Indeed. I will also protect my child, and I will protect yours because your child. Actually, he kind of contemplates for a moment, and he contemplates for a moment. He says, "Has your child accept? Do we have baptism? Can we have baptism?"
I don't think you get baptized per se, but you undergo certain rites, yes.
Mm-hmm. He'll say, I will protect your child because he is your child, and even if he is not a member of my covenant, you are." Oh, she is. And even if you are not a member, even if she is not a member of my covenant, you are. So, I require, I require help in the hunting down of this Lady of Jade to understand what is going on, and hopefully to put to rest this issue before important people find out about it. And I intend to raise it with our superiors in the Covenant, who may have more of an ability to scry and find her than I currently have at my disposal. I would very much like it if your voice were added to mine in the matter.
You have greatly aided me on more than one occasion. And I would consider us friends. I would be quite happy to lend my voice to yours.
He nods. He finishes the cigarette and he stubs it out in a kind of a makeshift ashtray that's like maybe like an empty Coke can or something. Before he just says, "I meant what I said a very long time ago when it was that we first had these children presented to us. They didn't deserve what happened, and the fact that somebody else is birthing these revenants, it unnerves me." Right before he died, Inquisitor, insert name of Inquisitor here, said that he was innocent of the siring of these revenants, that he had not done so. He swore to me before God. Now it is, I believe him.
She sort of looks down at that. It seems every court needs its Judas goat.
Mm. I think
it has become a matter for the sanctified if one has been, if for one of our own to be falsely accused and executed by one of our own. That is something that must be resolved. That is a mystery that must be uncovered, and the perpetrator of it put to rest.
Quite agreed. It has become complicated. It has become messy. It has become bloody, and it has become frayed. There is something very wrong in this Princeton. There's something very wrong here.
Very. I shall not speak of the prince. Would be unwise.
I did not speak of the prince. Things can be wrong in a domain that are entirely outside of the hands of its blessed sovereign. But we will speak more in private in a more salubrious setting, I sense. I intend to call a meeting of the sanctified so that we may discuss in conclave what it is that we must do moving forward. There are certain facts that have come to light that cannot be left to rest.
I agree.
In that case, may Longinus guide your path, sister.
No doubt he will guide yours. I'll be seeing you. I may linger for a bit. I believe my child wishes to converse with yours for a few moments longer. But please enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you for the show.
You're quite welcome. I find that I wonder how many people tomorrow will go to their church. Even if it is only 1 in 100 souls here, perhaps we may have saved 1 in 100 souls.
Perhaps.
But yeah, with that, Joshua just kind of brushes himself down, stands up, and he will let Jenna talk as long as she wants. He's just going to go sign autographs and do selfies and shit.
Do you want to end the scene as
Yeah,
you
that
sign
seems like a good place.
autographs and
Yeah.
then we shall end the scene as the camera flashes and Joshua takes his first selfie for the evening. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.